All right. This week on the High Ground podcast, we are going to be talking all about Star Wars comics. And I'm super excited because we have some awesome people here. But stay tuned. We will talk about that shortly right here on the High Ground podcast. Awesome. And we are back. How's everyone doing today?
Doing well. All right. Happy to be here.
I am excited. Victoria is returning, but this is the first time I'm having either of you guys on, and I'm excited for that. I want us to start by let's go around so you guys can introduce yourselves, where we can find your stuff. And I want to ask you, who are you and what is your favorite thing about Star Wars? But I also want to toss in, if you lived in Star Wars, what faction would you be in? Right, so that's Jedi, Sith, Mandalorian, Rebel, Clone, First Order, whatever. And who would your master or mentor or whatever be? All right, I know it's a tough one. I'm going to go to Justin first.
Fair enough. Hi, everybody. I am Justin Musso, a.k.a. Moose_0 on TikTok. I'm a big old nerd, specifically when it comes to things like comics. So I'm happy to be here to talk Star Wars comics. It's one of my favorite combinations thereof. I think that the thing I really love most about Star Wars is that at the end of the day, it's a story about hope, and it's a story about how, like, change takes time and effort. It isn't just an instant, okay, like we need to topple the Empire. Okay, we did it. The end. It's not an in and out kind of thing. And not only that, but it's also a story about how every action has consequences that you may not intend, and kind of how we deal with those consequences and everything. So I really kind of like that of just how we deal with grief, how we deal with change, and kind of how we deal with taking on the burdens of the last generation and, making them our own or making different choices. And I think if were I in the Star Wars universe and if I were a faction, I think I would most want to be, like, it's a weird thing. I think I would most want to be either like an archivist or a smuggler. I would absolutely be like someone who would be like collecting like Sith and Jedi lore and just like kind of like trying to get a clear picture of that.
That gives me a clear picture of why your favorite character is who they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That one hit all the right notes as soon as they were introduced, and I went, "Oh, okay, yeah, this is my favorite." It's like it's.
Off-Burnett is already calling it in the chat, anticipating some Afra talk. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, it's coming. Yeah. Dr. Afra is absolutely my probably at the very least my favorite of the new characters introduced through the comics, and probably easily in my top 3 just Star Wars characters. She's just rad. I love her.
Yeah, same. Again, she checked all those boxes for me too. And 000 is just the best droid.
Man.
I thought they
000.
I thought they had me with Mr. Bones. But then 000 came, and I was like, oh no, he's like, but yeah, we have Ringo. Your thoughts, and also, I don't know what you guys want me to call you. So I was like, call him?
You just call me by my first name.
All right, that's fair.
I'm on Star Wars, I'm on TikTok and Instagram as TheStarWarsGuy. I got into Star Wars at a very, very young age. I remember, what was it? It was in a VHS at one of my relatives' house, and I was just looking at I started watching, I was like, what is this weird movie? Because it started with Empire Strikes Back. And I was like, what? And then they had the original 3, so I started watching those. And then when the episode 1 came out, I went to the premiere for that. And, oh, that was amazing. That's what sold me on every Star Wars premiere after that. The theater went wild during the whole mall sequence and everything. If I was in the Star Wars universe, though, I would probably go with the Mandalorian faction. But Jaster Morrell as my mentor, because he just seems like a very fun guy and a loving dad. And I come from a military household, so that's
okay.
Mandalorians would fit perfect right there. The thing I love about Star Wars is just, like Justin said, it's a tale of hope, and it's a tale of improving yourself and seeing what other characters go through, and it kind of fits into your own personal life at the same time. And you always want to keep improving yourself for the future.
Yeah, definitely. I gotta ask though, because you invoked the name of Jaster. So were you a fan of it back when Jaster was Boba Fett?
Yes,
or after the retcon that Jaster was Jango's mentor?
I first read Jaster back in Open Seasons when he was Jango's mentor, and I didn't know about that he was in it before. And then once he came in, when they had his name in Mandalorian Season 2, after that got decoded, I started freaking out. I was like, oh my God, he's canon now. So hopefully they dig deep into that. Because I love everything the Mandalorian lore that they had before.
Yeah.
Hopefully they can work some of that into the newer canon.
Yeah.
Favorite Star... Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, just... so prior to Open Seasons and prior to the prequels, Jaster Morrell was Boba Fett's name.
Yeah.
And that was... Yeah. It was that character, which is weird. It's why, man.
I found that out many years later. Someone told me that, and I was like, that's not true. I was like, it's impossible. I was Luke on investment. I was like, that can't be true. So I looked it up, and I was like, oh, well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to argue with you about that. But favorite character in Star Wars, Darth Vader, hands down. I love everything about his story, just the emotion that goes behind it, especially in the comics and stuff where they play more out about how Padme's death just affects him, and not even Padme's death, as well as he starts to feel bad about everything he's done up until newer Vader run.
I was preparing my emotions because I knew we were going to talk about Vader 2020, but
not ready.
No, I love it though, and that's one of the great things about comics, because things change and shift so much. I feel like it can be really easy to get bogged down in your first introduction to this character or to this thing, and a lot of times that's not the original. So when they change it, like, you have to be like, okay, my version isn't the first version, so I'm happy they changed it for my version. Let's roll with this, for sure. And then just real quick before the final and best introduction, I just want to shout out Grandmaster Nick in the chat, Brian with the Beard, Ace Bronx, Julia Christine, Alf Brunette, and we have Carter. Yeah, we have some awesome people. Core Gamer Skills, awesome, lovely people. Element 7 as well. But yeah, we have our final introduction, Victoria.
Hey y'all, I'm Victoria. I'm itsvictoriayall on TikTok and Instagram. I guess I'll answer, if I lived in Star Wars, what faction I would be. I'm going to absolutely shock everyone, jaws dropping to the floor, and say I would want to be in the Rebel Alliance. I would like to work in like intelligence or in some sort of like humanitarian aid. So my master's is in cultural heritage management, and so Dr. Afra hits all those boxes for me as well. And so I guess instead of being a rogue archaeologist, I would like to work with the rebellion or any like Empire affected planets and talk to them about their heritage and like, you know, heritage and conflict, things like that. So I would want Leia to be my mentor, obviously, or Hera Syndulla, but I know that that's not exactly like the genre of work she does. So I'm not sure. We might need a like foil to Dr. Aphra in on the Rebel side. As far as like my favorite thing about Star Wars, I absolutely love that it is like a shared heritage, and it's something that we can all connect over and connect with. I love that like it's something that we share constantly, and it's like a contagion. We like we hear about it from someone else, and then we share it with someone else, and so it's something that is a really amazing connector. Like I remember it was like something my family would connect over. And so now, like finding TikTok, finding like a shared community, there's so much beauty in that. And so, yeah, thank you so much for having me. I always love being here.
Yeah, it's man. Talk about Vader with her. It's the best thing ever.
I can't wait.
But so for me, as I've always thought Sith were cool. That's why my name is Darth Chaco. I'm no Sith. I try to be.
I know. I say the same.
I've tried. It's not me. So yeah, as cliche as it would be, I would be a Jedi, but I would be more akin to the High Republic Jedi. And as you read those books, you see how every person views the Force differently. And as a musician myself, I actually find myself aligning a lot with the Jedi Master Avar Kriss, who hears the Force as music, as a melody. And so like she knew something was wrong because she's hearing the Force as a melody and there's something missing from it. Or there's like a wrong note, or there's something bad, and that's how she knows. And I just think that's just the coolest thing ever. So yeah, I would be a Jedi, and I'd love to have Avar Kriss. But part of me also wants Buckets of Blood as my master. And this is. Yeah, Buckets of Blood is so cool. Just a big Chagrian Jedi who's like, Buckets of Blood is on the scene. And then they're like, okay, so you're going to like start whooping people? And he's like, no, I hate fighting. Why is your name Buckets of Blood? I'm trying to keep the blood in the body. Like yeah. He's a healer. And that's I feel that's also fitting for me. I mean, my upbringing has made me have to be ready to fight at any time, but it's never a goal. It's not enjoyable at all, so I kind of resonate with that. But yeah, let's jump into it. So the first question, first two I'm putting together. I'm going to you first, Ringo. It's why do you enjoy comics? And what is unique about the medium?
I enjoy comics because it's a way to get out of the real world. You go into these fantasy worlds, and it opens up so much more in it. And honestly, like from seeing TV shows and stuff based on comic books, I actually lose track of everything and stop reading their voices in my head as my voice and start reading it as the voices of all those other characters, and even make up voices if they don't have any voices for them. Like before we got on here, I read The House of L #1, the newer one, and all those Superman in there. Had different voices coming in for them, but it was also pulled from the 1990s Clark Kent, and then the new Lois and Clark Kent, and Henry Cavill and Brandon Routh and stuff. And I was so lost and enthralled, and my fiance was like, hey, don't you have a podcast coming up soon? I was like, yes, I do. I gotta go. And about the medium is what I love is just the fans and everything, and the writers. I've met a few comic book writers like Stan Lee, and he just puts so much love in everything in all of his books, and even the stuff he didn't write. Like someone was asking him about Ultron the first time I ever met him, and he's like, well, I never wrote Ultron, but let me tell you about him. And
you can't casually drop that as like, I've met a few authors, I don't know, Stan Lee.
Like,
it's just all casual. Stan Lee.
Like
I actually couldn't talk when I met Stanley. I was just like, and my friend was like, "You gotta talk to him." I was like, "Oh yes, Mr. Lee." I got him to sign a few issues of my Fantastic Four books that I had. And it was just a fun time, and he was just telling me about all his stories and stuff, and all the other writers that I've met, like Frank Miller. He, even though he doesn't really like talking that much, say he's really shy, he went on and on about Man Without Any Fear. And I actually just took him the Dark Knight Returns book, and he's like, "Let me tell you about Daredevil." But the fan interaction and everything I've met online and at conventions, that's what I love most about comics. More than the book itself is everyone else that loves comic books as well.
Yeah, I have lots of great memories from. I've been fortunate enough to be connected with the people that put on Comic-Con. So I work it at least 3 days every single year, except this year. But yeah, it is. Like, I love hanging out in Artist Alley and just like talking to people. And also, I go to where autographs are, and there's always like lesser known people, and there's no one getting. I can't think of the actor's name, but I hung out with Benedict Wong for like 20 minutes. We're just like chatting and laughing and making fun of people, and like the voice actors and stuff. Like Steve Blum, for some reason no one was there. We're just like chatting and like it's super weird. But anyways, same question to you, Victoria. What's awesome? Why do you like comics? And like, what's unique about the medium?
So for me, I am definitely the newest comic book reader out of this group. I did not read a comic until quarantine started, I guess over a year ago now. And so I guess for me, for a long time, comics seemed like this unattainable world, this world that only a chosen few get to enter and only a chosen few get to experience and love and connect with. I've never been to a Comic-Con. I've never had these like shared experiences that I felt united the comic community. But something that I enjoy so much about comics is that I found an entry point that worked for me. And I think that for me, I want to like represent that to anybody that's like wanting to get into comics, or like they think that, oh, there's so much out there, I don't know where to start. Just find something, like anything that you're interested in, and I'm guaranteeing you there's something for you. And I thought that it was just something that I couldn't attain, or like a community I couldn't connect with. And so I think that it was more welcoming than I anticipated. And I enjoy comics outside, just like personally, because I'm like a dancer, and so I'm very sensitive to pacing and movement. As somewhat like of a visual artist myself, I love that comics have a set pace, but it also has a very like unique and personal pace as well. There's something about the movement of comics that really resonates with me. Like I'm sitting here right now with Darth Vader 2020 #8, and the 3 panels. I mentioned this on a previous podcast with you, but the 3 panels where he's like in the eye, or he's like interacting with the eye, and it's like Anakin's face, Luke's face, and then Palpatine's face. And though just the pacing of that, what do you want? What do you need? Or does it even matter? Like the ideas of pacing, and like you were talking about giving voices. There's something so beautiful about seeing visuals and like the marriage of text and visuals, but it's also such a personal experience of those texts and visuals that it's not completely laid out for you. Like you get to build the puzzle yourself. They give you the pieces, but you get to build it yourself. And I think that's something that is unique about this medium. So it's got a lot of touch points that you can engage with. And that is something that I hope anyone listening to this that is like, I don't know where to start. What I did was I really loved Darth Vader, and I was like, I would like to dive deeper into his characterization. And I read the Darth Vader comics in like 3 days. And so, and now like keeping up with the latest run. And so it's just finding an entry point. And then you're like, oh, well, now I can read more. And finding an entry point, and then there's tons of branches that you can find other things.
Absolutely. Actually, and I hope this isn't putting you on a spot at all, but I remember you talking about like your first experience like going to a comic book store, because it's something I've never even thought about, and I was curious if you'd be willing to share it. If not, that's cool.
I would be very willing to talk about this. So besides the fact that I already am very introverted and I get nervous about any sort of interaction that I'm not sure about how it's going to play out, I physically walked into a comic book store for the first time close to Christmas. And it was near, I think it was Darth Vader #4. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Darth Vader #4 had come out. Maybe it wasn't close to Christmas. I don't know. But anyways, so Darth Vader #4, I was like, I have to attain this comic. And I was like, but I have to beat the final boss level of going into a comic book store. And I was like, oh no, what are we going to do? And I guess as someone that had not engaged with it before, I didn't understand this whole, like, what is a pull list? Like, do I need to know what that is before I walk in? And also just feeling like I was going to be quizzed, or I was going to walk in and they were going to be like the Gatekeeper Comics videos. I know we interacted over that post that I made. I thought I was going to be quizzed, or that I was going to be looked at the entire time while I was in there. And so I was like, I know exactly what I'm going in for. I still don't browse to this day. I will not physically browse in a comic book store, but I'm going to get there one day. But I have my pull list, and I go in, get my stuff, and then I'm out. But I guess like what I was talking about before, it seems like a world that is so vast, you don't know where to start. So it's almost like I bought a banjo this time last year. I got really sad one day. I bought a Darth Vader helmet and a banjo. And I was like, okay, I'm going to learn how to play the banjo. Where do I start? It seems like learning an instrument to me, like a world that you are just outside of, but that you want to engage with. And that's kind of what I hope listening to this will help ease some people's fears. That there is an entry point for everyone, and it's so much more accepting and loving, especially like as a female, and like walking into a comic book store, you think you have preconceived notions about your safety there, your presence being welcomed there. And I would like to say, like, my experience is just as valid as anyone else's. And so the fact that I had just gotten into comics, I had to be like, I deserve Darth Vader #4 just as much as anyone else. I deserve to engage with this material. And I think that helped me overcome a lot of that. And I hope that that's something that anyone else that feels that way can be like, I am just as much of a fan. I am just as apt to get this material as anyone else.
Yeah.
It's not just for these lore masters that have been reading comic books since they opened their eyes, it's for everybody.
Yeah, man, like it gives me chills at any time I hear you kind of share that, but it's like, yeah, it's for everyone. And but anyways, I'll go to Moose. You probably will have more to speak on this as well. But yeah, I mean, why do you enjoy comics? What's unique about the experience? And how can we be more welcoming? Because it's such a wonderful world. I met my wife because of Star Wars Celebration 2015. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. But yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Moose.
I think one of the big reasons I love comics, and it's a thing where it's there's a few things to trace back. Comics were one of the first things I started reading when I learned to read. Like it was just like to help curb my voracious appetite of just like anything to just read it. And comics kind of offered something different that you weren't getting from chapter books or just like picture books of the combination of the two, and seeing the writing and the art really have to work in tandem, and the way it can come together in both the way that the art relays the things that the writing isn't saying or can't say, and also like how a comic, like Victoria was saying, like how it has to be like structured, how like the layout can also affect how the stories are read, how the information is taken and how it's perceived. And it's a really interesting medium, and I love comics because they tell any kind of story you might want to read, you can find a comic of. And they range from everything from hard sci-fi to high fantasy to simple like street level human interaction with no superpowers, no weird things happening whatsoever. It's all over, but it's also used to tell these really human stories that are always that are infinitely like readable. And it's the thing that I love that comics do so well is they will take these characters who are in these fantastic situations and these heightened but beyond belief scenarios, and be able to show you whole universes outside of your own, but still also pull in and let you know what this character is thinking, what they are going through, and can still be the very human thing. It's like, there's a reason why one of the first comic book characters I really connected with was the Thing, and it's just because this person who is objectively, he got transformed into a giant rock monster because he got bombarded with cosmic radiation, is it's comic books 101. It is like it's a very comic booky thing that happened. But to have a character who is like constantly struggling with like self-image and perception of things like that, and that being a deeply ingrained thing of it, and not being able to like know where his strength lies and where it's needed and the limits, it's these ways to tell these very human stories. And that's also why those are usually my favorite kinds of comics. Is like I took away from like just standard superhero comics for a while. Like there was like probably for like 2 or 3 years where I would not pick up a superhero comic because I was jaded by them, but also because I was like, oh, it's nothing but endless events and crossovers and reboots and retcons, and nothing seems to really mean anything, because if a character dies and they're popular enough, they'll come back in a couple of months when it's narratively fit for whatever story they're trying to tell. And so I took some time away from the superhero comics, which was also good because, like kind of to piggyback off of Victoria's point of there's a whole universe of comics out there. And like, that's one of the things that I like to stress is that, if you don't like superheroes, you can still like comics, because there's a lot of really, really, really good comics that have nothing to do with superheroes or capes and cowls. And it was great to take time away from that to find those comics and to kind of like see what else is out there. But coming back to it, I started finding that it was these stories that could take these heightened characters and put them in very real, very human situations were the ones I liked the most. Like I really liked Tom King's solo runs of characters have been really great. I've really loved his Mr. Miracle as a sort of look at the responsibilities of fatherhood and of responsibility to family and the PTSD that comes with having been through war and what that can do to a person's psyche, and constantly having to deal with that is fascinating to watch. Like his Vision series too is really good, of just kind of deconstructing like what it means to be like the nuclear family, and what it means to try to fit in when you by design cannot.
I mean, would you say that he did that with Vision as well?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like 100%.
Visions.
Like that's, yeah. Like that. Yeah. The Visions is dark and intense, and just like that. Like, like it's a nature versus nurture comic that is really fascinating. But I think one of the things that makes comics a really unique medium is it is a story that, in order to be told, needs about a dozen people at a time to be telling it, which is really fascinating. Because like when you think of it's not entirely like unlike like film production, where you have your writers and your pencilers or inkers who are kind of like those when you sit, but there's letterers, there's editors, there's everyone that has to come together to tell a story, to make sure that not only is it visually compelling, but narratively compelling too. You can have gorgeous art, but if the dialogue isn't good, or if the story isn't compelling, then you're not going to get people keep coming back. And by the nature of a comic, even if it's a graphic novel, then you have your continuous flow. You can let it breathe a little bit more, because that it's going to be of one thing. But when it is a standard serialized series, then you have to really work towards, how do I tell this story in 10 parts without it feeling too like cliffhangery at every end of each issue, but still give people a reason to want to pick up and see where the story is going. I really love that aspect of it. It is such a cool thing that it just happens, and just like the way that the art can tell, like there is during the infamous Iron Man, the Iron Man, the Doom Iron Man run.
Yeah, infamous Iron Man.
Infamous Iron Man. One of my favorite things that like of Bendis subverting expectations on that one and subverting a trope is how he made a point to never have Doom have an inner monologue throughout the entire run of the series. He did not give. You would just see him go do what he was doing and then leave. And even in like the transitory pages, there was you never got to see into Doom's head to try to figure out what he's going through, why he's doing these things that he's doing. You just had to trust and like watch as they happened and try to piece it together based on his actions and not his words. And I thought that was like a really cool subversion of expectations of not knowing what's going on in a character's head. And which is also a part of the reason why I like, the recent runs of the Darth Vader comics, is because you get a good blend of him being that like blank slate, like you of the danger of not knowing what he's going to do next, while also getting a really good and clean look at what is going on in his head and what is going on behind the mask, that he's trying not to let anyone, including himself, kind of process and feel. And that's
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like comic books of all mediums have mastered the art of the metaphor of Vader with his mask and masking Vader, but like, is the mask for him or is it for Anakin, or like, and every arc is breaking down that suit, and like, yeah, I don't know, it's crazy. And that's the thing I really wish that most people would understand, is that it's so much more than just superheroes. I'm a big anime fan myself. It's a genre. You can tell any stories with this medium, and specifically with comics, it is. And for some reason, I feel like a lot of teachers like clown on comics because it's not art, but it is words and images. Like that is, it is art. It is all of art. Comic books and video games are the most artistic things you can ever do.
Well, there's some of the most like like literally like by definition, some of the most interactive and engaging forms of art out there. Like you have to take it upon yourself to see the story through, whether that is controlling a character in a video game or turning the pages in a comic. And like, you know, there's some really like there's one of my favorite mini series of a sort of comics is Grant Morrison's Multiversity that he did for DC, which was both a fun look at like, oh, look at these like multiverse possibilities of DC, but also like one of like the overarching thing is this very meta thing of you are reading a comic, and by choosing to continue to read this comic, you are having a say in what is happening to these characters, because you are alternately making their situation better or worse through your impact on it, which is a really cool way of looking at that, like sort of like reader like writer relationship that comics can build.
Yeah, definitely.
And to the third point of making the comics community more inviting, I mean, yeah, I have never truly seen the point of gatekeeping, because again, there's a few levels to it that just don't make sense. The one thing is like when it comes to an accumulation of knowledge and trying to prove your worth by saying, I know more about this than you do, there is always going to be somebody who knows more than you. And so like there is it's a mountain that has no peak. You will grind yourself down trying to prove that you are the smartest person about this one particular subject. And kind of in hand with that, I always, I am very much, I don't see the point in accumulating a dragon's hoard of knowledge and not sharing it with people. Like it's the response I have never gelled with of, oh, you've never read this comic, isn't one of judgment. It's like, oh man, are you in for a treat? And hey, if you like this comic, I got a bunch of other ones that you would also probably like. And that's, there's no reason why anyone shouldn't read a comic. It's not like there isn't a good reason. There shouldn't be a barrier for entry. Well,
there is one good reason, and that's if you're Golem.
That's true. That's a fair point.
That's when you can get possessive over it, when it's your precious.
Right.
No. Other than that, I fully agree. That's one of the reasons why, like, I put out my Star Wars ranking list, which I know doesn't mimic what other people would consider to be the best list, but I'm pretty confident that I know a lot of Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
So I at least wanted my presence to say, there's this weird thing where they're like, oh, you didn't choose what I chose? That means you must be new around here. You must not know Star Wars. Like, if I know more than you do, and you didn't choose what I chose, what does that say about you? Or maybe this is all arbitrary and none of it matters, and we can all just have fun.
And that's the other big thing is it's just like it's so arbitrary and opinion based, and it's people like especially like the more toxic fans have kind of taken on this mentality in the last couple of years of kind of digging their heels in when somebody stands opposed to their opinion and saying you're wrong, despite it being an opinion, which is always entirely a subjective thing. And it's like no one is going to have the same list of best Star Wars movies because I am a different person than you are. And so there's going to be different things that I relate to in these things than you do. Like it's for me.
And to that end, if you have the same list, doesn't that mean you're less of a fan because you're watching it on more of the same surface level as up?
Mm-hmm. And it's like to a point outside of Star Wars in the MCU, one of the unpopular opinions that I apparently hold is that I really, really love Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Well, Iron Man 2, Iron Man 2 has its merits. I will say there are moments in Iron Man 2, but Guardians 2 is one of my favorite movies, and it's entirely because of this, a relationship that, that Quill has with Yondu, and with kind of this notion of, he might be your father, but he ain't your daddy. It is like that is like, it was like, there's moments that are just like really, like, there's a lot of pathos in that movie, and if you're not ready for it, it can kind of sideswipe you, especially based off the tone from the first movie. There's a lot more like moments of self-doubt and self-reflection in these characters that is sort of like a growing pains movie of them taking on themselves, stopping being, trying to live so selfishly, and stop living for themselves and start trying to live for one another and for their family. And like, that's like, it's great. Yeah. But yeah, that's like, when just let people enjoy what they're going to enjoy. It's all pop culture. It's meant to be consumed, and it's going to be consumed in different lenses for different people. And just be nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and I'm in the same boat. Like, compared to you guys, I probably am newer to comics. I mean, my preferred medium is actually books. I didn't start getting deep into comics until probably 2014, 2016, maybe. And so I'm actually a little ashamed that I call Justin's shirt a Nightwing shirt, because the Matt Fraction run of Hawkeye was one of the first ones that I picked up. But that's a whole side topic. But yeah, no, moving more into the Star Wars realm. Gotta ask, like, why do you like Star Wars comics specifically? What's different about Star Wars comics? And also, which is your favorite and why? And I'm starting with Victoria on this one.
Did Ringo get to go last round?
Yeah.
Yes, I started.
I went first.
I wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
I couldn't. The introduction and that question kind of blurred in my mind. I'm so sorry.
It's all right.
So, what I love about Star Wars comics, it's a universe that I already felt connected to. And so, because I already felt a connection, and I was like, wow, I love these films. What else can I engage with? And so it's a really amazing next step, I would say. Empire Strikes Back is my favorite film of the Star Wars films, because it's character driven and it is extremely emotional. Yes, there's Hoth. Yes, there's the duel on Bespin, but even the duel on Bespin is an emotional battle more than it is one of physical strength. And so I think comics really have the space to flesh out the characters that you know and love from the Star Wars universe in ways that the films just don't have the time to do. I started with Darth Vader 2017, which is set 1 second after Revenge of the Sith. And I love seeing how he was built up into becoming the Darth Vader that we know and love. And then I ventured into the 2015 run, which is set right after A New Hope. Again, we find him in a vulnerable spot. At the end of A New Hope, he is like a failure with the Death Star incident. And so seeing him reconstruct into the guy we see in Empire Strikes Back, almost his peak. But what I love so much about the 2020 run is Vader is not built or deconstructed, he's expanded. And so I have been thinking a lot recently about how at the end of Return of the Jedi, so often we say, oh, when he becomes Anakin again. I have a little bit of a problem with that. and I've been thinking about why it feels icky to me. I just don't feel like it fully encompasses what actually happened, because I feel like it's just light switches or binaries, and that is not what happened. He grew and has the Darth Vader inside of him. He is Darth Vader, but he is also this new Anakin and this new person. And so in Darth Vader 2020, we see that new person get constructed. We see this new character come to life. I know you mentioned earlier, it was like about the characters that you're like, oh, that's not where I would have gone with that. But I feel so like the Darth Vader I love is the Darth Vader I construct in my mind too. Like his silences, the pause before he says son in Empire Strikes Back. I love that moment. That's one of my favorite Darth Vader moments. Yes, I could talk about the Rogue One hallway scene forever. But one of my favorite Darth Vader moments is when Luke calls him father for the first time and he pauses before he says son. And that to me is so telling in so much of the characterization for him. So much is said in his silence, not true silence because he had the breathing, but so much is said in his silence. I love seeing in the Vader comics in particular the idea of what is humanity and what is machinery. And I think that that's something that gets really fleshed out. I saw it first in the 2015 comic when he's dealing with Silo and his whole troop. And I love that because it's like almost like a sci-fi element of in this space fantasy world. You see these like cybernetic creatures that like Commander Carbon is nightmare fuel. And, you know, one of my favorite characters is Toulon Voidgazer. I could not tell you why, but I love her.
She has a Toulon cosplay, and it's wonderful.
I do. I made it out of an old Amazon box, her little headgear. But yeah, I forgot where I was going with that. But, we see him when Silo hits the kill switch, and like his suit is completely done. So what is going to keep him alive? It's the humanity inside, the person that he is. I mean, I love seeing that really play out in the 2020. I just made a video recently on, you know, his armor and how in Darth Vader #9, they were like, this is just trash. I mean, it's just a standard respirator. It's like, it's standard. It's nothing special. There is literally nothing special about his suit. It's just what's inside. He is the special. And so just the idea of that. And I love, again, back to the 2015, because it's, you know, building up to Empire Strikes Back. And ultimately, when Boba Fett finds the name is young Skywalker and tells Darth Vader that, you know, we get the idea of like Silo calls all of those cybernetic creatures Darth Vader's children. And he calls them that in a way to say, like, this is your legacy. Your legacy is this cybernetic enhancement. And then we get the idea of his, like, paternal legacy to Luke and what that could look like. And so I love that comics gave me the room for all of that. All of the things that I loved from the films, it completely... like stacks on stacks of comics that help you get to flesh that out, get to dive deeper. I think it also gives us a lot of information that is not in any other media that I know of about the dark side. We get so much fleshed out about the dark side in the comics. There's like, I had it again back to like, I think #6 or number eight. The dark side and lack of clarity. The idea of the dark side is something that takes away your clarity. And, you know, that's something that Anakin was always on the quest for, like knowledge and knowing and certainty and the idea of control and things like that. And the dark side gives these visions of control, but it's really just like a fog. And, you know, like it really helps, like, in the setting of Mustafar, just like gives you so much to run with on that. I could go on a tangent about that, but I will not. But I guess for me, that's what I love about Star Wars comics is it gives you room to run with everything that you love about those characters.
Yeah, no, I love how you put that, because something that I talk about often, mostly, often as a joke, of the scenes in between the scenes of like
Yes.
someone says something in the film, and then you do a smash cut, and then they like sometimes they'll even finish the same statement, but it's clear hours have passed and stuff is you're like, what happened in between these? I love that comics give us those that breathing space. Luke in Empire is largely the same character he is in A New Hope. But in Return of the Jedi, he's a different person. None of that change happens on screen. None of it.
Yeah.
He strolls in, struts in his Chanel boots, and he's like a whole different person. And we understand why, but we don't know what happened. Comics give us that, which is just super cool. But yeah, Justin, how about you? What is it about Star Wars comics? And what's different about Star Wars comics?
I mean, yeah, it's to again to touch on a point Victoria made. I think the unique thing about Star Wars comics is that unlike it has the inverse relationship that the MCU does to Marvel comics, where if you come into the comics from the MCU, you will be sort of familiar with like the broad strokes of a lot of the characters without a lot of some of the nuance and stuff that they went through. And going in, we only got to see what could fit inside those movies of these characters and instances in Star Wars of topics that are discussed and ideas that are discussed. And yeah, the comics give them room to really dig in and like take a real deep and harder look at some of these concepts of the dark side and of the light side of the Jedi and Sith path. It's also a cool way, I think, to put characters in situations that will affect them based on like where we last left them. Like there and again, like fill in some gaps that the movies aren't able to. Like one of my favorite moments, which is almost like a B story through the main Star Wars series that Marvel did when they first started re-putting out the Star Wars comics after they all got acquired by Disney, was a like I think it's like a 3 or 4 issue miniseries where Luke is flying through space and has time and has gone back to Tatooine and found Obi-Wan's diaries, and so reads what Obi-Wan was doing in the intermeeting years between the end of Revenge of the Sith and the beginning of A New Hope. And shows the story of him having to live as a hermit, trying to lay low and, keep a protective watch over Luke and make sure that the Empire doesn't get wise to what is being held on Tatooine. And in the midst of this, imposed exile, the small, town near like where Luke and Obi-Wan live is getting, pushed by Jabba's men for like more moisture, and they're not able to provide the moisture that Jabba wants. And so they basically are like, all right, we don't get the moisture. Next time we come back, we're just going to kill everybody. And so he has to like find a way, like his need to help people overwhelms his need to stay quiet and lay low. And he ends up kind of using the Force to manipulate through Jedi mind tricks, through luring them out to the desert and picking them off as efficiently as he can so that nobody sees it's a Jedi, that he never has to really ignite his lightsaber to give himself away, that he's trying to like be like super low about it. And like keeping an eye on Luke the whole time. It's just a really interesting way of like, oh yeah, like this would have been what was happening, and it allows a chance to fill in some of the gaps between movies for these well-known characters, while also introducing new characters. And that comes, my favorite and my favorite of the new Star Wars comics is definitely the Dr. Aphra series, a character that was introduced in the 2015 Darth Vader series, of a character who is like really fascinating. And she's really fascinating because she doesn't fit into kind of the mold of like a smuggler or like somebody who is evil per se, because she's not evil. She is just like pure ambition and like wants to be
chaotic neutral.
Chaotic neutral. Oh, absolutely. She wants to be, a doctor. She wants to be an archaeologist, like because of sort of like the flash and the pomp and circumstance that come about, like making a discovery that no one else has made and like making a name for herself. And her her mentor doesn't like that she's there for attention, is like archaeology is a solemn and dignified profession that isn't here for flash or pomp or circumstance. And like at one point, like literally flat out tells her, like, I'm taking you on as your doctoral like overseer, and I'm going to make sure that you never get a doctorate, not because I don't think you take this seriously, not because I think that you're, impetuous or rash. It's purely because I hate you as a person, that you will never be a doctor. And so she orchestrates this elaborate scheme to simultaneously expose the like phony like proof that he had found to try to make a name for himself, and steal that and present it as her own findings first, so that she could then blackmail him into giving her a doctorate. And again, it's not that she isn't smart enough to earn that doctorate. She just wanted it, and so would not stop before she got it. And to see a character who is not only willing to work alongside the Empire because she knows the resources that they have, and that's really what she's interested in, but also a character who is willing to tempt fate by double-crossing Darth Vader and like pulling cons against the Empire, not out of the sort of rebel way of like, oh, we cut off their supply lines, we'll be able to we'll really kind of stick it to him. It's like, no, she's still very much out for herself. And she's just really interesting to me for that, of just being somebody who like doesn't want power. She just wants knowledge, and she just wants a little bit of prestige and be able to kind of, flaunt around being like, I discovered this thing. This is my discovery. And I don't think there are like a lot of characters like that in the broader like Star Wars movie, like cinematic universe. We don't really see a lot of like characters who are super duper out for themselves that don't either like instantly fold under like greed or secretly have a heart of gold and are putting up an exterior. Like she does not have a heart of gold whatsoever.
No, not even close. She has a heart of copper at best.
Yeah, she has a heart of copper. And if she has a heart of gold, it's stolen. It's somebody else's. And like again, to underlie that point,
she sold it.
Exactly. Yeah, she sold it. It's like, to underlie that point, you really only have to look at her droid companions of BT and 000, who are two of the most hardcore droids in the history of Star Wars. Like, man, I love both of them so much.
Yeah, no, legit. My I laughed so hard reading it of 000 interrogating the one person, and then he goes to Vader and he's like, I have good news and bad news. And Vader's like, what's the good news? He's like, well, I was able to get the information from the captive. Good. Kill him. Oh, then I have more good news.
Good news, yeah.
I love the part when R2 goes against R4, and R2's shoots out his little electric hand. He's like, "All right, let's go." And then R4's like, "Chain gun, let's go." And R2's like, "No, no, 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 no."
Yeah.
I immediately regret this decision. Yeah. No, but how about you, Ringo? What is why do you like Star Wars comics, and like what's different about the Star Wars ones, as well as which is your favorite?
The thing about Star Wars comics is earlier you were talking about how teachers would disapprove comics and video games and stuff. Well, I actually got into Star Wars comics in 4th grade. My teacher brought us comic books to read in the classroom. So I had a different type of teacher then. I got into the 1999, the Star Wars series that came out before the first movie with Ty Vaca, Plo Koon, not Darth Great, the one that became Darth Great. I can't remember his name now, but I got into what is his name?
Sand person with lightsabers.
Yeah, the sand one. Yeah, I got into that series, and I started reading it, and I was like, wait, this takes place before Star Wars. I was like, I need to know more. So I went back and started reading some of the older comic books, and it flew off from there. I'm absolutely in love, and my favorite Star Wars series is the Legacies ones, the one with Cade Skywalker and Darth Talon and Darth Great. I love those. But the canon books, even though Vader is my favorite character, my favorite canon books is the 2015 run of Star Wars. And that's what I'll recommend to everyone on my channel. If you want to start out with canon books, go with 2015 because it's right after A New Hope. You get to see Luke Skywalker's progression. And that's one thing I love about that is everyone's like, well, Luke, this character and he knows all this skills and stuff. Well, no, you see in that series he's really clumsy and silly and he doesn't know what he's doing. And the fact that he actually is trained by an undercover stormtrooper how to use a lightsaber, I thought that was pure irony.
Sergeant Creel is goated.
Yeah. I love Sergeant Creel. I made a model kit out of a stormtrooper and I made it into Sergeant Creel. So every time someone's like Sergeant Creel, I'm like, yep, let me tell you about Sergeant Creel. But Luke falls for everything, gets captured by Gracchus the Hutt. And it's also not only a story about Luke, as it also goes into everybody else that's in the rebellion. You got those stories about Chewie, you got the stories about Leia, which leads into her miniseries, and then you see how Leia has to deal with just everything about the rebellion. She's pretty much second in control, and everyone comes to her about everything. The thing I love the most about it is, like what Justin said, the Obi-Wan stories, the diaries where you tell what happened between all these years with Obi-Wan trying to take care of Luke and then, trying to make you hate Uncle Ben at the same time. But then at the end, you're like, oh, okay, so I see why, or not Uncle Ben, Uncle Owen, Uncle Owen wanted to protect Luke from Obi-Wan because he really didn't want anything bad to happen to him. And Obi-Wan sees like, okay, maybe I shouldn't train Luke. Maybe I should just let him live his life and not get him involved in any of this. And it introduced one of my favorite characters, and that was he's introduced in Vader series, Black Kristantian. Yeah, that's him.
Yeah,
the Wookiee.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty funny that Boba Fett had to go get his own Wookiee companion to be like, look, Han, I got my own Wookiee. And the thing about the 2015 series I love too, in the very end, you get to see Chewbacca just fully take on Darth Vader, where he starts fist fighting him. I was like, oh my God. Takes the boulder and just smashes it on Vader trying to save Luke. And then him taking on the other Wookiee at the same time during the Vader down parts. Oh, it's beautiful. And in the 2020 run, I always recommend that too. Because
sorry, you said Vader down, and I just have to say, I'm surrounded by dead men.
Dead men. Oh.
I love that.
Call an ambulance, but not for you, not for me.
That's my favorite. Yes.
The 2020 run, what I really love about that is you get to start that with Luke, and he's depressed, and all these other people, they're like, Luke can't be depressed, he has to be happy. No, he lost his hand, he lost his lightsaber, he found out his father is the person that killed all the Jedi and destroyed the universe and enslaved everything with it, and pretty much destroyed a planet. So that also leads into Luke in The Last Jedi's attitude as well. Like, why does he act like that? Well, he's human too. He can get depressed as well. And seeing him fight the Grand Inquisitor is just a nice connection to the Rebel series. Which I do want to see how they did the Grand Inquisitor spirit in that temple. I wish they did go in more about that. But
yeah, he's like bound to fire, which seems bad. Feels bad, man.
I felt bad for him because he's begging Vader, please let me go. And Vader's like,
no,
you're just staying here forever. And then, Vader, even though he became redeemed at the end, he still can't let him go. He's still bound there forever. I thought about that a while back, and I was like, oh, well, I just feel really bad for him now. But, the way that the Star Wars comics can continue the story is it tells all these little stories, and it just helps expand the universe a little bit more. It's like you said earlier, it's in between scenes. It takes the cut from here to here. And also at the same time, too, is what I tell people on my page is, they're like, well, I don't really want to get comics. I don't care about them. I'm like, okay, well, it's not going to affect the normal story if you don't read the comics. It just fills in a little bit of the gaps and just makes a fun little story for you. And it's, I'll recommend the 2015 run for everyone that just wants to start getting into Star Wars comics.
Isn't the 2015 run too? And in addition, I just had a vivid flashback. Like, oh yeah. In addition to like the Obi-Wan B story, there's another story that Luke reads in the diaries about Yoda going to the planet, like the living planet.
Yeah, it's like a living mountain thing.
Yeah, and he's thrown up by the Force, and it's like Yoda's like greatest like loss as like a Jedi, because he has to like lead these people and ends up like coming back triumphant, but like can't utilize the Force in a way because of the way that the planet is alive and messes with his connection to the Force.
Yeah.
I like that story too from it. I like the story from the 2015 issue where 3PO and Chewbacca go to that one planet that's got the living rocks. After the rebellion's like, we're going to lead the Empire here and we're going to blow up their ships. And then Chewie and 3PO, they're like, well, no, we can't blow this up. We need to get all these bombs off here. There's a living species here. And then Vader tries to pull those species to work for him with the dark side. And they're like, okay. No, we're just kidding. And they start trying to kill him. And they shut down his suit. And then they shut down 3PO. They pull Luke's X-Wing out of the sky. And one thing I thought about that, too, that was beautiful was when Luke saw Vader, he's like, oh, no, I have to fight. And he wasn't ready for this. And the first few issues of the 2015 series is what always gets me is when Vader sees Anakin's lightsaber. He's like, whose lightsaber is that? He's
How'd
like,
you get this?
You get that.
Yeah, wait a minute.
Why? And I love that part that Vader says. It's like, Luke's like, you killed my father. And Vader's like, I've killed many fathers. You need to be more specific.
Way more, yeah.
which was just, I don't know, to me it was totally invoking Batman Beyond. You killed my dad. You're gonna have to be a lot more specific. And how about you, Victoria?
Oh, as far as my favorite?
I'm trying. I apologize. I've just been having so much fun with the conversation. I can't remember who I started with on this round.
That's okay. I've spoken on what I love about Star Wars comics.
Okay. Well, I want to, because Ringo added that if people are wondering where to get started, he says 2015. I actually have Patrick Romer here in the chat. And Patrick's question was if he wants to start reading Star Wars comics, where should he get started? So we have one vote for 2015.
I second that. I think it's a good way, especially with the modern, the more recent Star Wars comics, because everything literally basically spins kind of out of that main 2015 run. That the Vader kind of exists. Depending on which run it is, either just before, concurrently, or just after, like what is happening in the main book, and then Dr. Aphra spins out of Vader, and there's the like legacies one-offs with all these characters like they come with the later movies and everything. But 2015 gets my vote as well of where to start.
Okay.
The way I describe
personally.
Sorry.
I'm going to disagree with both of you guys, but that's totally cool. That's totally
I was
cool.
going to say so too.
real quick, Victoria, where do you recommend? I mean, you definitely have 2 votes, so that's winning by numbers for Patrick. But Victoria, yeah, where would you recommend someone starts?
I think 2015 Star Wars is an awesome place to start. I think for me, because like I was so interested in Darth Vader, it made sense for me to start with Darth Vader comics. I know there's a lot of people that are like, oh wow, like the rise of Kylo Ren, and so I think if you find a character that you really enjoy, the Princess Leia comics, Han Solo, Lando, if you have a character that you really relate to, I think that would be an awesome place to start, even if you don't feel like it is, in the lineup of like the order in your brain. Like if you need it to be like, oh, I need it to start 1 second after Revenge of the Sith and then move forward. If that is you, that's awesome. I did not read it that way. I did start with 2017, but I skipped around a lot in the timeline because I think that it's very clear where it is for me. It seemed, and so it didn't get confusing, even though it was like I knew. I don't know. I knew that it wasn't necessarily like this happened, then this happened, then this happened, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with not knowing the perfect lineup of the dates. But I think if you have a character you really relate to, start there, and then move forward. I think for me also, a lot of people say to start as far as just getting into comics, the Star Wars comics. A lot of people say to start with Vader 2017. And I think that would be smart if that's something that you enjoy, because it's a really action-heavy series, and I think that that's something that could attract a lot of people. But like it also tells you a lot of like the emotional backstory too. Like you're still fighting those emotions that you and the characterization, and so you still get that if that's something that you're into as well. But you get the Vader character that everyone's terrified of, and you don't exactly know why in the original trilogy. His mystery is there, but you really get to see why everyone is so afraid of him and why he is the galaxy's greatest predator, aside from the recent...
From Grand Moff Tarkin?
Oh my gosh. No, number 18. Yeah, number 18, Bad Ground, when... And that's another reason I love Tarkin now. And he's my second favorite antagonist because of getting to read beyond seeing the films. So, yeah. I would say I didn't really give you a good answer.
No. You gave a great answer. Also, I'm gonna highly recommend you read the Tarkin book. And
I have it on my shelf.
Until Into the Dark, it was actually my favorite, and I did not care about that character one lick. I had the book for months, tossing it aside. But for me, if someone wants to know where to get started, the first question is, do you like Lando?
God, that Lando series is so good, though.
It's shockingly good. It's a 5-issue Lando series. It's goated. And if you like Lando at all, that's where you start. But I also tell people to start with Vader 2017 myself. Although I prefer Vader 2015 and Star Wars 2015. I think they are a superior run. But recently, the creator J. Kevin Parker started reading the comics. And so we're trying to tell him he's reading through 2015. They go in and out of the problem with getting started with comics is you have to know, what do I need to read? And sometimes stories weave in and out of other stories. And 2015 does that. You know what I mean? In 2015, Vader, he goes to Tatooine. He talks to Jabba. Jabba's like, you're here early. And he's like, no, I'll be back tomorrow in an official capacity. I'm just kicking ass today, or whatever. But so the two runs go in and out of each other a couple times, and then at issue 13, it turns to Vader down for like 3 issues, but then the regular thing starts again at 14, and like so there's certain things that I feel like are daunting, and the Vader 2017 run is just one thing. It doesn't go into anything else. It is very good, and it goes straight. And so my goal is to whet people's appetites so that they just have to like get more stuff. So that's why that's what I normally recommend to people. But yeah. Also, random question. This is from Element 7. Victoria, is issue 8 your favorite issue of Vader?
Oh, I keep talking about it because it's sitting here open. But I don't think so. Oh wait, I don't know. I really like number 10, the most recent. But I think maybe. It's fresh on my mind, so I'll say yeah. Of the 2020 run. I can't say it's the other ones because they were too emotionally taxing. But
okay, that's totally fair.
I can't say the others. They were too much for my tender heart.
Actually, while I have you talking, what is your favorite Star Wars run altogether, and do you have a favorite issue? And I'll come around and hit everyone on this question.
Okay. Wow, I do love Vader 2015. And I know, like you were just talking about how it's a very woven story. I didn't know that when I was reading it. And so I read it through. Then I read all of Vader Down. And then I read all of Star Wars 2015. So it ended up being okay. Even though I know it wasn't, like, the timeline wasn't perfect, it was still enjoyable. So if you do feel like, oh wow, I don't know how to read in an order, you can still survive. I am living proof. But yeah, I would say 2015 is my favorite because of how character driven it is, and because it's building up to Empire Strikes Back. I think that there's just something so beautiful about Empire Strikes Back in and of itself, but because of the emotional action in Empire Strikes Back, it sets it up in such a beautiful way. However, I would have said that 2 weeks ago, but you caught me today, so I'm going to say that Darth Vader 2020 is my new favorite Star Wars comic run, because of what I said at the very beginning. You see Vader built from Episode 3 in his infancy to who he becomes. You see him built in 2017. You see him built back from his vulnerability in A New Hope, but then in 2020, you see him just go, and expand and become an all new character. And so,
when he first saw Sabe, I just was like,
I was like,
oh no.
I'm sorry. I am a very active comic reader. I will say, I'm sitting here pushing up on my chair. I will stand in my chair to read a comic book, because it is high energy to me. It's very high energy. Or right when I leave the comic book store, I'm in the car on the edge of my seat. But yeah, I think there's so much that happens in the 2020 run. You get him being slashing down these impossible things. I don't want to say too much because I don't want anybody watching this to be totally spoiled. But you see that Vader. You see him become larger than life. But you also see him in these intensely vulnerable places. You see him in these places where you see his powerlessness. You think he's this powerful person, but you see his powerlessness in so many ways. And so that is my favorite run. I know I sound like a broken record just talking about Darth Vader all day, but that's my favorite thing.
There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah,
I was going to say, I tell people all the time, my favorite piece of Star Wars is the comics. And I like, even as much as I love the films, now my favorite piece of Star Wars is the comics.
Yeah, that's how powerful they are, and I absolutely love it myself because there's always this debate of like, is Vader and Anakin the same person, or are they two different people? Read 2020, you'll get an answer real quick. It's the same person who really, really does not want it to be the same person.
Yeah. And I think I'm sorry, but the end of Return of the Jedi makes so much more sense because yes, it made sense before, yes. But the entire last throne room scene just packs a different punch now. It just packs a different punch. And
as the kids say, it do be hitting different.
It does. It do be hitting different. Because it shows. I'm very curious to see how the rest of this run goes, and I'm sorry I keep talking about this, but because I guess like with the new films, a lot of the complaint is that Palpatine's return ruins the end of Return of the Jedi. Read these comics. To me, I feel like it helps that a lot, because I remember my first knee-jerk reaction was, I'm so angry, but it shows in these comics that he knows, like Darth Vader knows what Palpatine is doing. When he blocks Luke's lightsaber, he's blocking him from becoming him. Like he's totally in here. But I think in so many ways it like just enhances the fact that like he wasn't doing anything to save the galaxy or bring balance to the Force, these grand things. All he was doing was saving someone he loved. That's why he did everything he did in Return of the Jedi. And I think that that's such a beautiful thing that changes when you read these comics, that helps you see all of that, like, and experience all of that in a new way.
And that's what I love about the expanded media the most, is you can read this and then you go watch the movie, and then the movie, like a scene, like an actor, a background character, just has a different meaning, and it makes it better. It enhances that. It's like expanded media, comics, books, everything is seasoning to this meal, and like you can bring out certain things, and it's just the best. So I now I kind of lost myself, but
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No. It's bound to happen. What is your favorite run or character or part of these Star Wars comics? We already know, but now I'm giving you license to go in on it.
Oh, me?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Well, here actually, I will say again, I love Dr. Aphra. The Dr. Aphra as a character in her own run is one of my favorites in terms of kind of. It's one of my favorite parts of the extended universe of Star Wars, is getting to see stories that don't really have as much directly to do with the main movie storylines, of seeing these things happening concurrently in these characters who may have only been mentioned offhandedly in the movie, but is now like very important for what is happening off screen. And while I do love Dr. Aphra for that, it's actually, I mean, the Darth Vader one is just so good. I know that we're on like a real Vader kick, but like my absolute favorite moment of these Star Wars comics is Vader number 6. Is the moment where Boba Fett returns and tells Vader like, hey, like, I know you sent us out to like try to get this like rogue squadron going on. They just barely managed to get away from us. We got a name, but I don't think it's really going to mean much. And Vader's like, oh, what's the name? It's like, oh, Skywalker. And he just like that, like, again, that is such an important moment for Darth Vader as a character, because again, like up until that moment, like the argument of Anakin versus Darth Vader is kind of in that stark black and white of, he's Anakin and then he becomes Darth Vader, and he is Darth Vader because he has lost everything. He has lost everything that he loves and cares about. And in that moment of finding out that Luke survived and that Palpatine lied to him and that everything he had been told over the last almost 17, 18 years has been a lie. And he, like, the way he just like shatters the glass, like just almost blows out the glass in front of him,
which is his world shattering.
Yeah. Again, a great visual metaphor. And like, him flashing back to like remembering Padme and like remembering like seeing her on her deathbed and like everything that could have been going on if he hadn't been so easily manipulated. And it's really, I think, also like that is like the other shoe dropping on him realizing how long he had been manipulated by Palpatine. And it starts the seed of him rebelling against Palpatine growing in that moment. That's where he starts subverting what Palpatine is doing, trying to cut off some of the supply points, faking Dr. Aphra's death so that she can work for him on the DL and like find out information, find out what Palpatine has planned, because he's very evidently not telling everybody everything. And really like leads to that moment of blocking Luke's lightsaber in return. And like it's just like it's just such it's such a great splash page of like, again, like you can feel everything that Vader is feeling in that moment of just like for the first time in 18 years, him feeling something that is rage, but isn't just the sort of like mindless driven, like murderous rage. Like now he has something to fight for. Now he still has something to prove that he is not just a machine to kill. He is still a person. He is still Anakin Skywalker, and he will get back what is his. He will get back his family.
Yeah,
it's just chills.
No, it's so good, especially because there's also this weird misconception that like Vader and Palpatine are friends. Or they're colleagues, or they like each other at all. Like,
no.
and it makes sense because people transpose the relationships that they know. Okay, so Vader is like the executive at the company, and Palpatine is his boss. No, not even close. They don't like each other. They don't tell each other everything. They can often try to kill each other or put themselves in situations. Well, you will die. One of my favorites is when Palpatine pits the Grand Inquisitor up against Vader.
Oh, yeah.
And I liked it because in that scene I saw Hayden Christensen. Like they fight, Vader beats the Grand Inquisitor, and he's like, "Come on, man! Like, you didn't know he was there?" And he's like, "I knew he was there, but he tried to kill me. Did he kill you?
Right.
No.
But did you die?"
But what if he did? Then we wouldn't be having this conversation. Damn it.
I love how Palpatine responds every time. It was a test, Lord Vader.
Yeah.
Just kidding. It's just a test. We're just seeing how well you did. You made 100 this time.
Yeah, I don't know. I love it. But yeah, how about you, Ringo? Favorite?
Well, it's really hard to have a favorite because I do like the 2015 run, but the Dr. Aphra run really caught me on Star Wars comics because she was just a brand new character, full on front. Vader's secret apprentice, pretty much, going in there and just doing whatever she needed to do. And Vader's like, I'll invest in whatever. I'll give you murderous robots and travel around the galaxy with you. And
by the way, I'm still calling Chloe Bennett, the girl who plays Quake in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Chloe Bennett needs to be, she'll nail it. But keep going.
And I love that. I can't remember which issue it is, but it's in the 2016 Dr. Aphra, where Vader has to make it look like he lost to her. And he's like, I'll pull the roof down on me and you get away and I'll take the embarrassment that I was beat by you. And then I can't remember which general it was with him, but he's looking down. He won't look at Vader. He's like, I'm sorry, my lord, that she got ahead of you. But if I have to choose a favorite, it would probably be the Obi-Wan and Anakin comic series, because where it goes all the way back. And it's like Justin said, the 2020 run is like Vader seeing the seeds of doubt and going against Palpatine. But the Anakin and Obi-Wan shows how Palpatine put the seeds of doubt inside of Anakin and how they started working together. When he takes him, a young Anakin, to a bar, and he's like, well, see that guy over there? He's a senator and he's got corrupt money and slaves and stuff, kind of like you are to the Jedi. It would be a shame if he lost his money. If I had the Force, I would roll that dice. And then the dice rolls and he's like, oh, I knew you did that, but we won't tell the Jedi. And he tells him even, after that, he's like, if you're not happy with the Jedi, you can come live with me. You can be here in the Senate building. You don't have to stay with the Jedi. And you can see where that starts to build up the seed of that with Anakin thinking, well, yeah, the Jedi have everything planned out for me my whole life. They're saying I'm the chosen one, but at the same time, they're not listening to me. They're putting me on a pedestal, but at the same time, I'm not able to do anything at all because, well, they say I'm the chosen one, but I'm not the chosen one at the same time. And from the 2020 comic run of Vader, I love that part where Palpatine's tearing Vader's limbs off, and he's like, "Oh, so you think you're the chosen one? That thing meant nothing. That was anyone could be the chosen one. They just thought that was you because you were just a powerful kid. Come on." And that scene just gets me. I don't know what it is, but it's just where all his limbs are being torn off, and Palpatine just talking crap to him. He's like, "I hate you, Vader. You're not the chosen one. You're just a tool. You were always a tool to the Jedi. You're a tool to me. You're a tool to everyone else. You're going to be a tool to your son." And what is it? This is another scene from the 2020 Vader comics.
Well, because that bleeds right into the scene that she has open right now.
Yeah.
I switched over to number 10, but it's in number 8 when the Eye is talking to him about like the chosen one without any choice. And so I think that to your point that
it goes into that, and you see like Vader sees like, okay, well, I was told my whole life I'm the chosen one, but maybe I'm not the chosen one. Maybe I was just a false prophecy, pretty much. And one thing I love about the 2020 comic too is that scene where Vader sees Luke falling, and he sees everyone in his life he lost. He sees his mother falling. He also sees Padme falling. So he's like, I did all this, and for what? I lost everything. I didn't gain anything in return.
And then he sees himself falling, and I was like, oh, God.
That's what gets me. And every time I watch Revenge of the Sith, like even before reading the 2020 run, reading the 2015, 2017, I cry. I'm like, oh, God, this is, you see his fall, and you see like he was corrupted, and he never really had a choice his whole life.
Yeah, he just ran from one form of slavery into another, into another,
and then he's finally free at the end of his life.
And then
and that's one thing. Like when you see the Return of the Jedi, you see that you're like, he's free. He's able to do what he can.
God, just what a tragic figure. And like that's I think another thing. Like like the thing that these comics do such an amazing job of is they heighten and transform characters that we are super familiar with, and that we have the preconceived notion from just seeing what is going on in the movies. And really like it's sad watching episodes like 1 through 6 of watching this fall and the corruption of Anakin Skywalker into Darth Vader and everything that happens like thereafter. But man, the comics really let you know, like, this is truly a tragic character who, like, yeah, like, he is arguably one of the most powerful people in the galaxy. But again, that power is not his own to control. And he is always at the behest of somebody telling him what he can and can't do and what he has to do, and never being allowed to have that free will. And like, man, just sad.
It's so tragic, and it's actually through Anakin that I frame most other things. Like, I'm watching WandaVision, thinking of Vision as Anakin. You are this great power. They're not. No one is letting you have any form of choice. Like, you've made your choice, and they've elected to ignore it. And that's it's a whole thing. But I'm curious. So at least for me, because I've been reading and just loving the High Republic. I hit my mic, so sorry. But I got my High Republic adventures right here. I've been lucky enough. Me and Element interviewed Daniel Jose Older, the author of this. He is such a cool guy. I can't wait to like buy him a coffee or something. I said I was buying him a beer, but he doesn't drink, so that's unfortunate. But there's a High Republic comic called Edge of Balance that's coming out. It's a manga, and it's the first time. So they did Leia, Princess of Alderaan as a manga. They did Lost Stars as a manga. This is the first time that it is a manga. It's not based off of anything. And I'm so excited. I'm gonna be all over that. But I have a dual question for you guys. What upcoming or new comic has you excited? It can be inside of a run that's already there. I've also been enjoying this Bounty Hunter run because we've been introduced to a lot of new people. So what upcoming thing has you excited, as well as you have the green light button? You can tell them which comic is going to be made next. What are you going to greenlight? And I'm going to start with Ringo on this.
Well, I'm actually really into the Bounty Hunter run because I liked Byler Valance from Legends, and then his canon version of himself is just he's the Terminator pretty much. He's the Terminator in Star Wars. Yeah. I am excited for that, and I'm excited for the new High Republic book coming out, and this whole series that they have set up. They have 3 phases so far for it?
Yeah, 3 phases.
Yeah, up until 2025 or something like that. I remember I watched the trailer for it, the big thing event that they had before the Light of the Jedi came out, and all the stuff that they announced for it. I was like, This is amazing. This is so much Star Wars content coming out, and in a new era.
Really good.
So it's like in a new era. So many brand new stories that doesn't have to go off of anything prior to it. So like the Adventures of the High Republic, I loved that first issue with Yoda and all them, and finding the new Force people. What were they called? I remember. I talked to Daniel about it. I messaged him on TikTok about it because he followed me back, and I was like, I need to discuss this with you. And this character, Buckets of Blood, I love that character too. I'm just excited for all the things coming out High Republic, and that katana saber on the cover of the manga book coming out. It looks beautiful, and I'm excited to see exactly how that works and how it's constructed. And I liked in the Light of the Jedi how the lightsabers would interact with their vehicles. Like
you had to make a decision if you were going to shoot. So it was actually taking your lightsaber and like locking it into
Greystone, was it him? The Twi'lek Jedi?
Loden Greatstorm?
Yeah, Loden, yeah. How he pulled the cannon on his back and put the lightsaber in there and was shooting it. And he's like, this thing's heavy and it's only got one shot and it might explode. So let's do this.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it when I was reading. I was like, it's kind of like a Power Ranger type thing. You know, you got to put your key in there and turn it. I love that part. Now, if I had anything to green light, it would probably be. I was working with a friend on a Boba Fett comic series when I was in art school, and we never really got far with it. We kind of just gave up on it because, well, you know, stress of school and everything. We called it. What was it? It was about 4 or 5 years after the end of the Clone Wars. It was Boba Fett, Sin of the Father. That's what we called it. It was Fett trying to take on becoming a bounty hunter, while at the same time learning the responsibilities that came with the Fett name and all the people coming after you because you had the Fett name. Like Boba learning that maybe Jango wasn't the best person or the person that he thought that he was. Like all the stuff that he has to deal with and all the consequences because he is a Fett. And also at the same time too, we wrote about it because we wrote a few scripts on it, that he was going to meet some clones and stuff and try to build up the Fett name that way, but it just wouldn't work out because the clones wanted to be the last Fett instead of Boba being the leader of the Fett clan. So if I had to greenlight a comic, that's probably what it would be.
That's interesting. I like that a lot. That's cool. How about you, Victoria?
My green light, but what was the other half of this question?
If there's something upcoming that you're really excited for.
Yes. Okay, I was gonna say I feel like my mind is so one-tracked. So I apologize how predictable I am, but I'm going to say I cannot wait for the rest of this Darth Vader run. I think that it has enhanced so much of our understanding of Return of the Jedi, but as we just got left off in Darth Vader number 10, Let the Emperor Fear Me. I am so excited to see where that's going to go, to see how, like, in his quest for knowledge and what it leads to, how much he will know about Palpatine's plans and contingencies, how it will affect how we understand him in Return of the Jedi, and understand all of the conflict. I am very excited for the rest of this run. I think it's going to be amazing. But if I could greenlight a project, again, I feel like I've been very one-tracked with Star Wars, and
nothing wrong with that
piece. I always say, like, yes, I promise I'm a Star Wars fan. It just always manifests in something Darth Vader related. I loved Bloodline with Leia and all of her stories, and I loved how it talked about, like, the aftershock of the Empire and what it means to be Darth Vader's daughter. I loved Bloodline and kind of the politics of Bloodline. I liked what was the guy's name?
Ransom. Oh, Rin Riven Die. Okay.
Yeah, I loved that arc in the book, and I think that would be something interesting to experience. And the Maxine Warriors, something like that, would be really cool to see in a comic. I don't know. I think that, like, the Amidalans we met, I would like to see more about them and their, like, quests to bringing honor and vengeance to her, and kind of seeing that. I think that would be, like, a really cool character-driven run, and we could see, like, a lot of emotional action in that. But yeah, I don't really know as far as other projects. I'd love to see more on Luke. Obviously, I feel like there's still, yes, we have a lot of Luke content, but we still are just scratching the surface. I'd like to see a lot on Luke after Return of the Jedi, and, like, building the new Jedi Order. I'd like to see a lot about that. That'd be cool.
Yeah, no, I man, no, I like that a lot. Because there is a lot to tell in that Luke in his prime, because, you know, there's a lot of people. I love The Last Jedi. It's my favorite Star Wars movie now. But there's a lot of people that can't see the track of from Return of the Jedi to The Last Jedi. I can see in my mind's eye clearly of like if you're on top and you are running at if you're running as fast as you can and it's not fast enough, how that could potentially break someone. But that would be something awesome to explore in a comic. I also have Element 7 here in the chat, who is also been reading High Republic Adventures. And, you know, we get introduced to Zine Morala, who her species is Mikian, the same as Tipli and Tiplar that we saw in Clone Wars Season 6. And their culture does not... They reverence the Force to the point where they don't touch it. Now, this is 200 years back, so there's got to be a lot of like, how did those two end up in the Jedi Order? Was there a big change that happened with their culture or anything like that? Might be something super interesting that Element brought up. I'd love to see that. But yeah, Justin, Moose, how about you?
In terms of an upcoming comic, one that I'm really, really, really pumped to see. I mean, arguably it is this year's big Star Wars event comic, which is War of the Bounty Hunters. It's such a cool concept, and again, you know, I as somebody who has always loved Boba Fett as a character and loving kind of getting him get his due finally in the larger Star Wars meta. Just the premise of like the pitch being that like we know that at the end of Empire he gets Han frozen in carbonite, and by the beginning of Return of the Jedi Han is like with Jabba, and it's just the story of what happens to Boba Fett in transit between those two things. And it's supposed to like it's going to tie into the Darth Vader run and the Dr. Aphra run going on right now. It's going to put Boba Fett at odds with Jabba the Hutt, with Darth Vader, with Black Sun, with like all the heaviest hitters in the galaxy, because somebody else ends up with Han Solo, and so Boba Fett is just going to tear through anyone he has to get him back and complete his bounty. And so like I'm real excited to see that. That's going to be real nuts. So I'm pumped for that.
And just real quick, the one thing that I do love is that Dr. Aphra is a perfect mixture of Han Solo and Indiana Jones. Which is like, it makes she's like the X-23 of Star Wars with that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
But the conflict that she has with Han Solo, but both of their relationship with Sana Starros just makes like it adds this extra flavor. Like I don't know, it's so cool. There's no way Sana Starros does not make herself known in War of the Bounty Hunters in a significant way. But sorry, go on with your green light.
So my green light is again an idea that I think would be kind of interesting to see in terms of like a story to tell, which is not like inherently a story important to the larger Star Wars universe, but I think it would be fascinating of a story of, you know, not within time of the fall of the Empire, of like a squadron of stormtroopers on kind of an outer rim planet that was already like under tenuous Empire control, was already had its fair share of rebellion kind of coming with it and kind of having a hard time trying to keep the locals down and in check. Of the squadron sent out there, of them sort of, whether through finding out about the fall of the Empire or through just kind of getting sick of putting up with having to try and do this grunt work against, you know, a planet that does not want them there, that they kind of abandon ship and ditch their stormtrooper gear and try to blend in and go native. And like a Hutt family kind of rolling in and trying to lean on this small community that they've started to kind of integrate into and have built themselves, and kind of like, very secretive about their past, very like not very cagey about it, but like being welcomed into this community and working to start a life that isn't just them in service to the Empire. And this, a threat of an outside force coming in to try to take that away, and them kind of having to like, John Rambo themselves into like defending, like digging out this. It's essentially what I'm pitching is like Star Wars John Wick. It's like it's like a 5, like kind of like a Bad Batch, but like set during the Empire era, of them kind of laying low and in this small community that then has to like dig up their weaponry and like their kind of guerrilla tactics to protect this new life that they've made for themselves. I think it'll just be kind of interesting to see, especially, again, because we're still constantly getting media that lets us into the lives of these stormtroopers, of these people who, like post clone troopers were just being recruited or bought and sold into the Empire service, and may not inherently agree with what they're doing, and maybe had been conflicted the whole time, maybe like weren't happy doing it, but like it's a living, it's what they did, and seeing that, being like an attempt at their own sort of rebellion, at their own kind of redemption, and in the face of trying to protect what is now theirs and start their own lives, would be kind of interesting to see, I think.
I like that. I like that a lot. Also, in the chat, we have Grandmaster Nick saying a buddy cop series with Boba and Cad Bane would just be hilarious, with like dry humor. And
that'd be great.
Elements is casting Stephen Lang as Cad Bane. So I'm picturing Training Day with Star Wars bounty hunters.
Oh man,
and I low-key need that. They're also talking about the Tag and Bink.
Tag and Bink.
We definitely need more of that. Core Gamer Skills talking about a procedural crime drama set where the new Jedi Order is handling crimes too large for the local marshals. That I would Law and Order.
Yeah, that'd
in
be
space.
great. Oh man.
Yeah, I'm into it. How about you, Ringo?
What about the green light and stuff?
Yeah. So what upcoming
I went
are you
first.
excited? Oh, you went first. Okay.
Yeah.
I apologize.
You're all right.
But yeah, actually, it is about that time that we start wrapping things up. So, what I would like to know. So we've talked about our ideal like comic projects coming up, but we do have a bunch of solid, 10 solid projects that are coming. So let me know if you have any closing thoughts. Which of those projects you're excited for and why, as well as let the good people know where we can find you. As for you, Ringo.
Okay. Well, I know we got a full dinner platter full of Star Wars content, like movies and stuff coming. The one that I'm most excited for is the Patty Jenkins movie coming out. I love Rogue Squadron.
Yeah.
Yes. And I do hope that it is the Rogue Squadron from the Empire time, but if they do post-Empire, like First Order, new Rogue Squadron, that would be pretty awesome. I would love to see more about that. That's one thing I love about Star Wars media. I want more just the other people in the Star Wars franchise. I know we've got a lot of Jedi and Sith material already. That's one thing I really liked about Rogue One was it was the other people as well. Yeah. Now, that one and the Taika movie coming out.
Yes.
I don't know if he's got a trilogy or is it just a single movie.
It's a single movie
But-
from what we've heard, but that could easily translate into more. My headcanon is he's doing Hondo not good.
That
Man.
would be amazing. It would fall well with him, especially because his movies are amazing because he does so well with the action and the comedy. And I am really, really excited for the Ryan Johnson trilogy as well. If that rumor is true, The Last Jedi was beautifully filmed. There was like a scene on Crate when they first get there, and the ice wolves. I can't remember their names, but where they're running across. I thought that was just beautiful.
And Leia
And then
with a jacket and the sleeves
Yes,
up, and
yes.
like,
Oh,
why is everything iconic in this?
as soon as I saw that movie theater, I was like, that is beautiful. Like, and I'm excited for those three movies. Now, where you can find me is on TikTok and Instagram under That Star Wars Guy or Geeks Galaxy. That's my main handle. But sub name is That Star Wars Guy.
Yeah, and this guy is blowing up like hardcore. It's crazy, and you deserve it. Congratulations, man!
Well,
like,
thank
you're doing
you.
Awesome.
It's like I told everyone in my 100,000 video. I just started it for the fun of it. My first video was literally a Star Wars meme about Alderaan blowing up, and then I made some clay Jawas, and then I was like, well, I'll just narrate some comic books because I love comic books, and this is a Star Wars page, so let's go. And then boop, 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 it just kept going up. I was like, okay, well, people love Star Wars comics.
Keep it going, man. Like it's
Thank you.
it's so cool.
will.
I love it. How about you, Victoria?
Obviously, I'm excited about the Kenobi series. That is going to be amazing. But I'm really excited about Star Wars Visions, the anime series, and whatever, all that coming out. I can't wait. I think we all have something really that we're all excited about because there's so much coming. Like I hear this a lot. Like, it's a great time to be a Star Wars fan. It really is. And I'm excited that there's this renewal, there's this hope for more Star Wars. And so, yeah, I'm excited about everything that we'll get in the upcoming years. Closing, I am itsvictoriayall on TikTok and Instagram. And yeah, that's where you can find me right now.
Yeah. I love your content so much, and I love that we've become friends over this time. Like, I feel like, I could be wrong, but I feel like our big bonding moment was, I'm actually a really big swing dancer. I do a lot of swing dancing, and people find it strange because you don't find many people that look like me swing dancing, and I have to tell them we invented swing dance. But Victoria, like, yeah, she knows all, and it's wonderful.
I did my summer project on swing dance and like the cultural history of it, and so I was like, I'll send you the slides if you want. You can just share them. But, yeah.
Also, side
Thank you,
note,
though.
I'm pretty sure that Ringo has the bottle that Luke uses to catch all the green milk. Can you pull that bottle? Yeah, like the way you're squeezing it and stuff. Like, I can just picture Luke just like,
Just
looking
like
at you.
fresh green milk in the morning.
I love it.
Oh, I love it so much. And how about you, Moose?
I mean, yeah, I think I'm just really, I am also very psyched about the Rogue Squadron movie. I think that it's, again, characters who are legendary within Star Wars canon who, you know, it'll be cool to get to see them more fleshed out on screen. Anything for more Wedge Antilles, man. Like, God, more and more justice for Wedge Antilles and the way he carried Rogue Squadron through every one of their firefights. But also, I'm really, I can't wait until we get more details on Taika's movie. I can't wait to see what he gets to do with Star Wars and the direction he gets to lead into next and into what lies ahead. I'm real excited about that. And in terms of finding me, like as I said, I am at moose_0 on TikTok. I mostly do deep dive videos on comic book characters and events, while also making fun of gatekeeper culture and the lesser aspects of various fandoms. And yeah, I'm primarily and most active there. So if you like nerdy conversations like we've been having for this past 2 hour period, come check me out.
Yeah. Also, I am gonna have to challenge you to some type of a nerdy rap because I know I've seen you spit some bars. I've spit some bars myself. I think Misa thinking we saw being friends. Also, like Victoria said, I'm super excited for Visions. The thing that caught me off guard at the meeting is she was like, "This is going to cover the 25,000 years of history," and I was like,
"Yeah,
yeah."
Did she say 25,000? Because we have Battle of Yavin, right? Then we have the prequels. And 200 years before that, it's the High Republic. 3,000 years before that, it's the Old Republic.
Yeah. And then another 20. Yeah, another 20,000 years.
Yeah, this is all within the 5 of the 25,000. So that means that we were potentially getting some Jedi. If you read, what is it? I want to say Into the Dawn, but that's not it. Dawn of the Jedi. So we may be getting some of that stuff. I feel like if they did an anime style origin for General Grievous, it would just
yes.
it would wreck my soul. There's so much that they can do with that project. Myself, I'm most excited for the Acolyte because we don't have a whole lot of canon dark side lore, and that project proves that is going to be about that. Ahsoka, mostly because the background of the logo is the Virgin Scatter, like the world between worlds. What the hell? You can't put what is that even? Like there's a lot to be. It is the best time to be a Star Wars fan. The stuff that's been being released with the High Republic has all honestly been really good. It's not me just being a Star Wars simp. It's actually been really high quality. It's just a wonderful time. So I am happy. Especially since I've been able to join TikTok and meet these cool and interesting and awesome people like you guys. And I don't know, I feel like this may be, I don't know if this is presumptuous, but I feel like we're the genesis of the future of Star Wars fans. I feel like when I got started, I was heavily inspired by Element 7, who's now a close friend of mine in the chat, and I don't know, I see us all blossoming out of these things, and there's this, it's the Star Wars fandom. The toxic side is awful. It's one of the worst places anyone could ever be. But the positive side of the fandom is better than any fandom I've ever seen, heard of, thought of, contemplated. For sure. Full stop. So I am blessed to be in a place where I can talk to people like you guys, with key masters. But yeah. Thank you guys so much for joining me here on the High Ground Podcast. I'll give you back the rest of your evening. But thank you so much, and thank you for making this a safe place for all fans. And we're gonna keep this going. We're just gonna keep it going forever,
Yeah.
Let's go.
All right, guys. Also, WandaVision in a few hours.
Yes,
So,
yes.
Can't
Not
wait.
ready.
We're doing this. If I don't cry tonight, I will be disappointed. That's where I'm. Actually, I'm sorry. Real quick, I'm going to end the podcast there. I'm going to clip this part out, but I need to go around one last time. Any hardcore WandaVision predictions? And I will make TikTok saying these people were right. If you have them. I mean,
I think kind of going off the conversation that we were having post Raybird's live stream. Yeah. I still maintain. I think we're gonna get the first in-universe usage of the phrase mutant by the end of this episode, and I think that we're gonna get a really sad moment of Hex Vision carrying Wanda out of the Hex like he carried her in the first episode before like disintegrating and being pulled away and dispersed in her magic.
Whew.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be bad. It's going to be so bad.
I mean, for me, everything is revolving around the kids. I was rewatching the first few episodes, and when the boss chokes, the final question the wife asked was, why don't you guys have kids? Next episode, they kept saying, for the children. I think it's all going to be okay. Where I've landed on now. It's going to feel like it's all going to be okay. And Wanda's going to merge the two visions.
Yes.
And she's going to find out that the kids aren't coming with her. And she's going to sacrifice herself for the kids. That's what's gonna happen. So Wanda's gonna be scattered to the multiverse. We're gonna have to like save her in Multiverse of Madness, but the kids will be okay. It's all this whole thing is for the kids,
for the children.
What do you think, Ringo?
Well, I feel like what you said. I think Wanda's gonna merge X Vision with the newly rebuilt Vision, and I don't think it's going to be the same Vision. She's going to have some of the memories from the Hex, but also at the same time too, like he was talking with Darcy, and I think it was the episode before this last one. He's not going to remember anything before that, but he's going to remember everything going forward from when he first was created inside the Hex. But at the same time too, Wanda has to somehow open up the multiverse, and either she's going to be the main villain and trying to destroy the multiverses to get what she wants, or she's going to be lost and Doctor Strange has to come after her and find her. And I'm so scared about the whole children thing. Like, are they going to disintegrate in front of her face at the beginning of this next episode? Is she going to realize, just like everything else in the Hex, her children's fake as well? Like, are they going to be her children, or are they going to be children that was already in Westview to begin with? That Agatha just took her time to introduce them into Wanda's life. I'm just so nervous and scared, and I love it so far, and I'm just excited for it. Tears are gonna fly. Tears are gonna fly, no matter what happens.
Absolutely.
And I learned my lesson from last week. I quit that so too early, and then I got on TikTok and I found the post-credit scene. I was like, oh no! So I had to go back and rewatch it. So I saw the first 5 seconds of White Vision stepping out, and I was like, no! What happened? Where was this from?
It is far and away, next to the movie White Chicks, far and away best users of white face.
And I really hope this next episode answers about Evan Peters. Like, why is he there? Is he Quicksilver from the X-Men verse, or is he just a random citizen that Agatha got into his mind and made him think he was Wanda's brother?
Part of me thinks they just won't address that ever at any point. They're just gonna move on. They're just gonna like shovel it like snow. Like, well, that's gone. Like, but I
showed up.
What? Why? Yeah, no. It's just a thing. Don't worry about it.
This is that scene with Monica where she turns around and he's just like, And then the scene cuts out, and I was like, "Well, where is he the next episode? What happened?
Snooper's gonna snoop. I mean, that's where this is gonna start. This Snooper's gonna snoop.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing too is that like, I think that if it does turn out that Paul Bettany is his own cameo, then I wouldn't put it past them if this ends up also not being Fox Universe Pietro, but again, whole cloth, really truly created fake Pietro, because then it's just like, yeah, why not? This is just for, nothing's real.
Yeah.
Everything's false.
And Victoria, do you have any thoughts?
I started WandaVision just because I was like, oh, well, I'll start WandaVision. I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't really get into the MCU or would have called myself a Marvel fan by any stretch of the imagination. But I think this was like such an amazing, like, I don't know. It was just, it's a piece of art. And I think there's so much here that I was like, I have to know more. And so it's making me, so I just stopped my Marvel Unlimited subscription because I got it to read all the Vader comics and some of the Star Wars comics. But now I'm going to go get it back. Because I feel like I just like want to know more because I didn't know any of like the references or crossovers. I feel like I've had the unique experience to be able to experience each episode on its own and be shocked by everything. So it's been a unique experience for sure. But I think like
I'm
hearing
still haunted by that yogurt commercial. Like it's still.
Oh, I know.
Yes.
I know.
Yeah, that one was rough.
I've been seeing like lots of different theories and whatnot, and they've definitely sparked my mind because like I love unpacking things. Like that's one of my favorite things. I think that's why I love Darth Vader so much, is there's like puzzle pieces that you don't even have the whole puzzle pieces. You have to create some of the pieces and put them together yourself. And I love the puzzle piece idea, and so I love figuring things out. So this is like a perfect place to do that. But I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, the commercials. So I was like listening to someone say, and it might have been one of y'all, so I'm sorry, but somebody was talking about the commercials being manifestations of her subconscious. And like the toaster in the first commercial sounded the same as the bomb, like ticking. And just the ideas of like all the commercials were manifestations of her subconscious was really like a cool thing. And like things that had haunted her, and so like almost this dream state during the commercials, and like the idea of like the yogurt commercial, that's what was happening to everyone like in the past Ellis Avenue or something. But yeah, there's a lot.
I never thought about it like that because everyone other than Wanda,
because they're just like
is unable to access magic, and so everyone other than Wanda is the people in the commercial who just withers away and dies and becomes my sleep paralysis demon. Yeah. It's
pretty scary. But so I guess predictions, I don't really have any other than I know it will be emotional, and I'm excited to see where it'll go.
All right. Well, I'm going to ask all of you guys tomorrow if you cried.
You know I will.
Yeah, spoiler alert, yes.
Yes.
But I will let you guys have your evening back. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Star Wars comics are awesome. Everyone should start reading. If you like Star Wars and if you want to make the movies better, like the movie you watch for years and years and years as a child, if you want to somehow make that movie better, start reading comics. That's how you do it.
Yes.
Anyways, may the Force be with you.
And also with you.
The Force be with you.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.